Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of The Overlay, a poker podcast brought to you by CCG Poker, Chicagoland's #1 live charity poker experience. Hey, Brando, what's going on?
What up? How we doing?
We're good. It's almost March. The weather's looking good.
I know, like 50, 64 yesterday. I didn't even know what to wear.
It's warm. I've mentioned this before, and I'll say it again, so I guess it doesn't matter. But I do love the fact that in Chicago, you can always get at like 55 to 60 degrees, you get every single type of article of clothing worn. You can walk down the street, and you see people in shorts and a tank top and flip-flops, and you see people in snow boots, parka jacket, and like a snow cap. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they just everything and in between. Everybody just is like, well, whatever you're comfortable with. Like 55.
Bro, like all the combos.
Anything's cool. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like free reign. It's like the perfect GTO for weather is at 55 degrees. Is just anybody can pull off anything. All of the hands, all the ranges are open. Yeah, you could do whatever you want. Like 80 degrees wearing like a what do you call those?
Snow cap. You're gonna look like an idiot.
Yeah, but like a snow hat. Like, what do you call it? Like a
beanie?
I don't say beanie. A knit hat. What does Ryan say? A toboggan?
I don't know.
Canadians
got different.
A winter hat. I just say a winter hat. I guess if you're gonna wear 80 degrees, you're wearing a winter hat, you look weird. 55, not weird.
Right. Also, 20 degrees, you're wearing shorts, you get called out. Like, come on, man.
Right.
Like,
every time you wear shorts in the middle of winter, I always say, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing?
25 degrees outside.
And then I like to rebuttal with, yeah, but I spent 4 seconds outside and 13 hours inside.
Well, that is true.
And it's 72 in here. So,
but where would a poker player be without defending his bad plays to his friends and other poker players? Which brings us to today's episode episode theme. Whatever the hell we're going to talk about today on the overlay, we're going to talk about bet sizing, which is one of these great actual researched podcasts, which means Brandon has done research. I have done nothing, and I'm only going to ask questions and interrupt with mildly funny jokes depending on how my day's going for comic relief. So get ready for a technical episode by Brandon, co-hosted by Ken.
All right, is this where I go?
Yeah, that's your cue to start.
All right, sweet. Well, the problem with bet sizing is there's just so many different situations.
True.
There's so many different, areas of the tournament that we're in. I think we're going to be mostly talking about tournament bet sizing here.
Okay, cool.
Cash game bet sizing, it's still kind of the same as it's always been. The bet sizes are bigger. You can always reload. There's no blind pressure coming. The blinds aren't going up. Your stack size isn't shrinking. If you bust out of chips in a cash game, you can just buy more, right? So bet sizing is more standard and kind of tailored to the fact that you never really run out of chips in a cash game.
You're on a time constraint in a tournament. There is no time constraint in a cash game. The blinds are the same. They're not changing. You don't have to move those bets around based off of the actual blinds, because it's going to be the same. If you play 1-2, these are what your bets are, and you kind of know what they are, and they don't change throughout the day. It's not like if you've been playing in a 1-2 game for 8 hours that you got to start changing the bet sizing at the end. Or maybe you do.
Correct. Not really.
Okay,
but cool. You're also going to be, your stack depth is really going to be the same. I mean, you're going to be sitting in a 1-2 game with $200 to $800 for your pretty much entire life. I mean, obviously there's sometimes you get short stack and there's sometimes you build a huge stack, but generally,
relatively
when
speaking,
you're playing poker in a 1-2 game, you're going to have, 200 to 400 big blinds, and you're going to play appropriately with that stack.
Right.
Now, a tournament, however, you start with 1,000 big blinds. Then there's times you got 6. Then there's times you spin it back to 100. Then the blinds come at you again, and you're down to 30. And through all those, ups and downs.
Ebbs and flows, valleys and mountains.
Alleys and mountains.
No, valleys.
Oh, valleys.
Not alleys. Why would it be an alley? That
I don't really know.
Sense.
I misheard what you said there. So through all those different, time frames of a tournament, your bet sizing is going to change kind of drastically. And Apparently, according to the solvers and what I'm reading, it matters a lot to your bottom line. So
Really?
I guess we're just going to get right into
Yeah,
it.
jump in it.
We all know that in 2024 we're not raising 4x anymore pre-flop, right? I mean, we all know that we're
Ooh.
down to the 2.25x's, and
I'd like to plead the fifth on that one.
okay, well, you know that you're supposed to be betting 2.25 to 2.6x or somewhere in that range. 3x is now a big raise pre-flop.
Really?
Back in 2011, remember we'd be online and we'd just click 4 or 5x.
Fucking ripping 3x.
Ripping 3x.
Pre-flop with my ace jack.
And then what happens? And then if you got 3-bet, it would be 12x. It would be 4 times that much. And
Jesus.
you'd be calling with ace jack and going to the flop with 12 big blinds each in there and 24 bigs in the flop. And if you flopped an ace, how much would you bet?
All of it.
A lot. You bet 20 bigs, 18 bigs. I mean, these are huge bet sizes in today's game. And generally, the computers say that's not very good.
It's not ideal.
Not ideal.
So what is ideal?
So we're just going pre-flop in a tournament. You're looking at 2.2 to 2.6x.
And is there a variation on that? Are there extremes that you want to change it? Meaning if I'm getting into the hand and obviously, position's going to play some roles in here, but like go with like I've got a hand that I'm trying to think of it, the opposite. Like if you have aces, you still do 2.6. I mean, I know you don't want to telegraph that I have a big hand, so on my big hands I seem to be raising 3x, and on my mediocre range hands I'm betting 2.5, which is just screaming to the players around me going, hey, we can peg Ken for a range here much easier because Dummy O just keeps betting the same thing every time. How does that come into play? I don't know if I threw off the speech here, but
no, it's fine. I mean, you really do want to be consistent regardless of what your hand holding is, because these days we're playing a range of hands. So whether you have the bottom of that range being whatever ace 7 suited or the top of the range being aces, it's still that whole entire range that we're playing. So we're trying to get less into us playing our particular
specific
two cards that
hand
we're looking at,
okay,
and more so as like, well, these are all the types of hands we would be playing.
I want to play ace-7 the same way as I play aces, so that way they can't put me on one hand or the other.
Correct. And even more so, I think now people are betting less with their good hands. And that's, I don't mean to say less with their good hands, but I would say that, I would be more suspicious that a guy only doubled it and he had aces, whether a guy 4x had aces, because of the fact that everybody's folding to these huge 4x's now, and you want action with your good hands, and you're going to be betting people out by sizing up. So
term of the day, sizing up.
Or really the term of the day is going to be sizing down.
I know.
Because the trend here in these tournaments these days in 2024 and what the solvers are spitting out is that less is more. Less is more. I mean, I guess we can just go in. So pre-flop, you're just going to be opening to standard, whatever, 2.5x. We'll just call it 2.5x for easy math.
Okay.
Now your 3-bets, you look down at whatever. It's the hijack, and you got king, queen suited, and Kenny's been opening 44 hands in a row, and you say, I want to 3-bet this hand. We're going to say the blinds are 500, 1,000 for our nice easy math. Kenny made it 2,500, 2.5x, just what he was supposed to. Now it's on Brandon here. I look down at king, queen of hearts. I say, I'm going to 3-bet it up. How much am I going to 3-bet to, you think? I'm asking you.
Now
remember, I'm in position on you, and that kind of matters a little bit.
Right.
In position or out of position. So if you're
1,000 to 2,500, I mean, minimum raise is what? Not very much. I don't know, like 6?
6 is pretty solid.
Yeah. Now, I was thinking not quite 3x, so my fast math was 7,500 is 3x, so I'm going to go just slightly below that, which I guess, I don't know if it's exactly 2 and change, but I'm a little more than double.
That's pretty good. So I would have said 7,000.
See, I have great intuition. I just don't know it, but go ahead.
7,000 would be what the computer spit out.
7.
3-bet. Yeah. So almost 3x.
Okay.
You're right.
Is it like 2.5 or like 2.7?
2 point. Yep. Those are all
Okay.
2.5, 6, 7, 8,
Okay.
9. I'm just generalizing here. 7,000 seems like a nice round, even number for the viewers at home.
For sure. Makes math simpler.
Yep. 7 big blinds going in. Okay. Now let's say you raised the button because you've raised 45 hands in a row, and I got king, queen of hearts in the small blind, and I still want to 3-bet you because I want to punish you that you've been raising every single hand.
Right.
How much am I going to 3-bet you now? Now that I'm in the small blind, which means I'm out of position. Is it going to be more or less?
I feel like it's got to be more.
Okay. Do you know why?
No. Again, good intuition, terrible scientific reasons. Obviously, you're got to play out of position, so I don't have the luxury of waiting for him to make a bet into me post flop. So if I miss my flop, what am I going to do? Do I just continue it? C-bet? Say I feel like to put more pressure on him, I got to bet a little bit more.
All right, so more is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Again, you're crushing this interview here.
Right. I just don't know why.
Here.
I'm just guessing.
So it's going to be more like 4x.
Oh,
so
shit.
It would be so all the way up to 10.
10K.
So 25, you're going to go up to 10.
Maybe 85, 9, but really more like 9 or 10K, huh?
Right. 9 or 10K as opposed to 7 or 7,500.
Okay.
And the reason is you kind of want to bloat the pot, make it bigger, so your SPR, which is your stack to pot ratio, is smaller, which leads to like less creativity. It has to be more face up. It gives you less of a chance to get outplayed.
Okay.
Because their stack size is kind of diminished. No, it's marginally diminished, just a little bit. But does that make sense?
No, yeah.
Because you want to give them less options in position. So you want to make the pot bigger earlier. So, the money might be
they have less.
the flop.
They have less rope to either
There's less creativity.
hang themselves or win the pot. Right.
Because they get to realize their equity a lot easier than you because they get to check back anytime they want. I mean, you have to check out of position. They get, let's see a free turn. Let me check back. Well, now, they get the lead in the hand more often. They get the chance to bluff you more often by you having to check a lot out of position, especially in 3-bet pots. So what you really want to do is charge them for it early. So that's kind of the first blanket rule here is when we're 3-betting more out of position than in position. Because in position, we're like, I'm loving life. They get 7,500. I hope they call with their jack 9 of hearts or give them all those medium strength hands. You're willing to go to a flop in position with king, queen of hearts against the jack 9s, the jack 10s, the 7s, the 8s, all these middle hands that they would open with and then call a 3-bet with.
Right.
You're kind of happy to go to the flop, which is why you're going to give them a nice price of 7,000. 9,000, you're like, all right, man, or 9 or 10,000. It's like, all right, man, like we're battling here. It's off to the races. Like you want to play your jack 9, it's going to cost you 10,000 pre-flop. If you whiff the flop, I'm going to be pounding again. And, it really doesn't give them much room where if they miss the flop, there's no floating. There's no like, I got a backdoor flush draw and a gutter. Let me see a turn and then see what happens. You're really kind of getting rid of all of that by sizing up with your big 3-bet out of position.
Early on, right.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
All right, so now we're into C-bets. I like C-bets. C-bets and flop bets are really the focal point of this, I guess I don't want to say lesson, but
sure.
This theory that we're talking about bet sizing, it really comes down to how much you're betting on the flop. So you open up the ace jack and it comes ace 8-3 rainbow. That's a pretty dry board, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're into 3 guys. There's 10K in there because you made it 3,000 and 2 guys called. And then there's some annies. There's 10K in there. It's on you, Kenny. How much you going to bet? Ace 8-3 rainbow. You got ace jack. Checks to you. You're in position.
Is this the scenario where I 3-bet to 7,000?
No, new hand.
Oh.
No, new hand. You made it 3,000. 2 guys called. There's 9,000 in there. There's a little bit of change in there from an Annie. Ace 8-3 rainbow. Small blind checks, big blind checks. Over to Ken.
9,000 in the pot?
9,000 in the pot. How much you going to bet?
3,500. Final answer.
Pretty good. They're even saying less than that.
I was thinking a third of the pot was what my
So
idea
you really,
was.
they're talking about
Quarter
a
pot?
fourth to a
Jeez.
sixth. A
What?
sixth.
A sixth?
Yes.
I haven't
So,
thought about six since I was in college and I was trying to buy an eighth of something.
yeah,
That's
and you were
really
just like
hard
6,
math.
8, 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad math there.
That's tough. An eighth of an ounce? The fuck is that? I don't know.
So the reason is because the board's so dry, you don't want to chase away. There's
want to
nothing you
keep
have to
them in the
protect
hand.
from. You want to keep the really bad hands in. You also want to keep the
Bluffs?
weaker aces.
Okay.
You want to yeah, correct. I mean, you want to give everybody
An
full range
opportunity.
of everything that they want to do is at their horizon with a 200 chip bet. 200 into 900. It's kind of tough to play. I mean, what do you do with king queen? You call, you fold.
Now, can I stop you for 1 second? Do you have to be willing with this type of play to just go, okay, I understand that, if I lose the pot to a stupid turn of river by another player, that you just accept those as part of the play now?
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like you can't allow yourself
very big
to get
concept that you got to go into that knowing that.
I might lose this hand to get my maximum value from this hand. There are times in which I'm going to get to entice players to call with bad hands. Occasionally, you lose to those bad hands, and you can't be pissed about it. When you do, it's just like, well, that sucked, but on to the next one. I think that's hard to do, but
correct, because you're gonna raise with ace jack, you're gonna flop an ace, you're gonna bet 200 into 900, and you might be getting called by 3-4 of diamonds on ace 8-3, which is exactly what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And when the turn comes to harmless 4, you're just gonna lose the hand, or you get called by 10-8 of hearts on ace 8-3 because you're inviting the 8 to put more chips in the pot. This is what you guys want to do. Sure, sometimes it's going to turn an 8 and you're going to lose the big pot to 10-8 and it's going to be stupid. Or they're going to turn a 10 or they're going to run a runner or a backdoor flush. These are all the things that you want. I'm not saying you want them to happen.
Well, you just have to be prepared that they are going to happen.
Right. And you want to give them the chance to put in their bad money and make that happen because you're winning in the long run. Like we're talking about theory of how you're going to play for the rest of your life, not how one single tournament is going to go. So,
or even one hand,
or one hand. You're right.
Right.
You're wanting 10-8 of hearts to put chips in when you flop an ace and they flop an 8. You want to give them that because here's the problem: you raise and there's 9,000 in there, and it comes ace 8-3, and you bet 7,000. Well, now 3-4 folds, and now 10-8 folds, and you just take down the pot
of 900. You didn't get anything for it, right?
You didn't get anything for it. You flopped an ace. You kind of hit your gin and Holdem. I mean, flopping top pair in a single raise spot is a beautiful thing.
Or you end up getting called, and then that player ends up having a slightly better ace queen, ace 8.
Correct. You're like backing yourself into a corner to win small pots or lose big pots. Even when you have somebody coolered, let's say you have ace king in this spot of ace 8-3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you start pounding the flop for 7,000 and then they call, there's 23 in there, and then you fire 20,000 on the turn. Well, now even ace queen and ace jack, hands that you just coolered, are now going, this is warning signs here. What am I doing? Like they're even going to fold those hands. Even hands you have coolered are now only getting one street of value from. Whereas if you just played small ball and bet small flop, medium turn, medium river, you get 3 streets from ace queen and you take down an even bigger pot.
I do like it. I mean, it makes sense.
And then the reverse side of that is here. I'm always talking about our value hands. What happens when we open with king queen and it comes ace 8-3? Now we get to baby bet 200.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they might come along with an 8 or a 3 and they're beating us now, but we have the range advantage, right? We have all the strong hands. We have all the aces. So now bluffing is a little bit easier too, because now you open with king queen, ace 8-3. You bet 200. The guy has pocket 4s. They're like, screw it, I'm out. The other guy's got 10-8. He calls 1 street. Turn comes the brick. You bet again. All of a sudden, this guy's like, man, this guy really probably does have an ace. And now you got
You might even get ace jack to fold here because he might be thinking, Brando's got ace king or ace queen.
Correct. So now you get to get value and bluff and win the hand all with king high because you bet small on an ace high board.
Yeah, I never think of hands in a range format. I find I get much more narrow, and I'm going to have to work on that for the future, is I do get very narrow on what I think people have, especially in Holdem. 2-card PLO, regular PLO, I feel like I can put a player on a range better. Like, well, if he's got a straight draw, then this will happen. If he's got the flush draw, then this will happen. And it's like, to me, that my mind works better on the ranges when I'm looking at that board, Jack 8-3, I can put the guy on, okay, well, he's betting into me. What do I think he has? Maybe he's got 9-10. Does he have a set of 8s? Does he have a set of 3s? Does he have ace, jack, jack? So, like I can put stuff on there, and then based on what I have, I can be like, all right, this is how I want to navigate the hand. I'm not nearly as good at that in Holdem. I have a so much harder of a time doing that exact same thing because it's like, well, they only have 2 cards. So like my brain just goes, oh, it must be less possibilities. But in all actuality, the same possibilities exist. It's just the range is wider, or
yeah, it's harder to put. It's easier to put somebody on 4 cards than it is 2 cards.
Yeah,
as weird as
that's fair
because,
point. That's a really fair point when you say it.
But it's almost like it should be reversed. But
right.
It's like I feel more.
So many more possibilities with 4 cards. No, it's actually less. It feels like
it's
less.
Actually less.
It feels like
right.
less. Right.
In Holdem, it's like they can have anything. Like
they
only
can
got
have
2
anything.
cards.
Right.
So how do they ever have anything?
I don't know.
Yeah. I get what your mindset is saying there with the 2-card PLO.
I told you I have really good intuition, but I don't actually know how to describe it. Maybe that's not a great resume for a poker podcast, but hey, I'm just a fun guy.
So another reason why we're using small bets is because we really don't have to deny anybody equity. There's no straight draws. There's no flush draws. There's like nothing that we want to charge, right? It's on these dry boards. It's basically like pairs and sets. And when you got the toppest pair with a good kicker, you're in pretty good shape. Now, there is one little...
blip?
No, not really a blip, but if you're facing a terrible player, the fish, you don't really want to size down too much.
So hold on. So far, all we've discussed is like our mentality and what we are trying to represent as our range and kind of how to play those efficiently. Now you're throwing in another factor. That's why poker's so fucking hard.
It is because
now you're throwing in like, are you playing an aggro player who's just ripping bets all the time and rolling over shit hands, or are you playing the kind of old guy nit or young guy nit as they like to be called now? That's a totally different. It's too many stuff for me to think about. But go ahead.
I mean, you're familiar with the term inelastic, right? From your microeconomic
elasticity. I do know what elasticity is. A price. I can do a price elasticity for sure.
Yeah. So inelastic prices is something like insulin, right? Where it doesn't matter if it costs $70 or $700.
You're buying it.
Somebody with diabetes is buying insulin, no matter how much it costs.
If I say it's $1,000 a shot, okay, well that sucks. I'm gonna have to start selling drugs.
But I gotta live.
Right.
So that's inelastic. Well, it's the same thing with bet sizing. If you got a guy who's gonna call 200 or 800, it doesn't matter. If he's got a pair of 3s, he's calling your bet. These are the times you want to get away from the theory. Okay, cool. The computer is telling me to bet 200. The problem is that I know this guy's if he's gonna call 200, he's gonna call 700. So
right.
I'm just value owning myself by not betting 700. This is why poker isn't just all straight and arrows. Like every single situation is different.
And if there's like a third guy in the hand, then that's going to affect your decision as well, because it's not so straightforward. It's like, well, I did this in the flop, and I now I have position. I'm going to bet another, whatever the case may be, 2.5 or 3x or 4x or 1x or 0.25. I don't even know that was a bet sizing availability. I guess 2.5 of the actual pot. But yeah, This is the train of thought that my brain doesn't go down. I don't know if I just
you just start firing bets.
Yeah, I'm firing bullets. I'm a spray and pray at times.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of variables to
Please
take into
don't
place
exploit
here.
me at the next time that you guys are playing with me.
See, guys, Kenny's one of the guys where if he's calling 200, he's probably calling 600.
1,000%.
So size up.
You
for
just
him.
you lost the potential to make an extra $400 off of me if you bet 200 instead of 6, because I would have called for 6.
Like immediately when Kenny sees 200 into 900, he goes, "Well, they're an idiot. I would have called 600
Yeah,
here." So.
I'd have called more for that.
And then you call 200 and see a turn. So I think board texture is very huge, and I think we're going to go to the other side of the board texture as opposed to the ace 8-3 boards when you
where you're
raise.
pretty safe. It's easy. You're not worried about a lot of stuff here, a lot of connectors. Go ahead.
Now on the other side of like a 10-9-5.
Can we stick with the
hearts,
ace jack? Because I like to know that I have one hand and it's easier to deal with.
So we just have ace jack the whole lesson. That's fine.
Sure.
I like ace jack.
Yeah. Go ahead. So now you have ace jack.
Okay, so
we're in position.
All right, so let's just say it comes.
We 2.5x pre-flop. Flop comes down. There's 5K in the pot. 5,500, I guess, if there's a small blind in there. And the flop comes out. What's a wet board, Brando?
Jack 10-7.
Fuck.
2 hearts.
I don't like that. 2 hearts too.
You got ace
That's
jack.
a flood.
Diamonds. That's a flood.
I'm flooded. I don't. I didn't like it at Jack 10-7. I hate it at Jack 10-7. 2 hearts.
Now remember, this is Holdem. There's only 2 cards.
Nobody ever. You're always saying nobody ever has a flush in Holdem.
Nobody ever has.
I always think they
Holdem.
have a flush.
So on this
Now
board,
what are we doing?
Exact same situation. 900 in the pot. We ain't betting 200 anymore.
Okay, because it's too wet.
How much? Yeah, it's too wet. It's a flood. You just said it. How much are we betting?
I mean, 750.
Okay, that's a little high.
Okay.
How about right in the middle of those two?
So instead
half
of
pot's great. A little bit more than
450. Okay.
500. 500 is a nice, easy.
A little more than half.
You flick out a little brown chip at CCG. 500.
I do like it because sometimes you can put off like a devil may care vibe by just ripping out a 500. I also like to throw out a 500 at that point and be like, oh fuck, wrong chip. Then you really confuse people. But go ahead.
So we have to protect our equity here. There's just too much going on.
And 750 is too much to protect, or we're not going to get enough calls.
Yeah, no, you're going to get calls, but you're going to start value owning yourself. You don't want to just put all your. I mean, you only got top pair, top kicker. It is a wet board. People are going to be calling with all kinds of stuff, and 750 is just too much to commit because now you're bloating the pot.
No, I didn't think about it because then the next bet is going to be different as well.
Correct.
Okay.
There's another bet. There's 2 more bets.
Now, if I do get a call, I got the 14 plus the 9 in there. Now you're at what, 2,300 in chips in your scenario. Now it changes when you're playing a tournament where you start with, whatever, 10K in chips, 20K in chips. It's a much bigger pot. Ooh, I like that. Stack to pot ratio.
Yeah. Plus, we're not trying to play for stacks here. It's not like we're not sizing up to jam the river.
Okay.
Which is, that's something we need to be aware of is, seeing how much is in our stack. If we bet this much on the flop and then this much on the turn, we should have a pot-sized river to jam with on the river. Right. Our hand isn't that strong. We're not setting up for 3 barrels.
Sure.
Of three streets of value and an all-in and a call on the river here with ace-jack. What we're doing here is we're betting for value with our top pair, top kicker. We're trying to deny and charge some equity or, deny some equity from the people that got gutter balls. Like, what is it? Jack 10-7? Mm-hmm. Like the ace kings and the ace queens. We really don't want them calling on the flop. They got a gutter. They got what they think is 2 overcards. It's really only 1 because we have their ace blocked and stuff. But those are the kind of hands that we're trying to get to fold for 500 that are calling for 200 because they're trying to deny that equity. And if they call, then they call, and that's fine too because then we got value and they're chasing. But we're denying equity, and at the same time, we're protecting our hand. And at the same time, the people with the real draws, let's say the ace, queen of hearts, which is the real draw here, we're now charging them to see their royal flush draw. We're now making them pay up and also going to put them in a bad spot if they miss the turn because we get to bet again. And, so that's how we should be constructing kind of our flop size bets. It should be based on your views of how you think the player is. If it's an inelastic player, we're sizing up no matter what. B, we're going to use the board texture to our advantage. The wetter it is, the more we're going to go up. The reasons for, we have to protect. We want to charge. We don't want these suspect hands getting in for cheap. Whereas on ace-8 3, we kind of want the suspect hands getting in for cheap. Go ahead, get in there. You want to have a pair of threes against my pair of aces? Let's go.
Great, yeah.
But on the Jack 10 sevens, not so much. So, I mean, that's kind of my pre-flop. I'm sorry, that's kind of my post-flop sizing. I don't know. What kind of questions you got?
No, that makes sense. I like the idea of, I would have thought there'd be a bigger range, and I guess you got to think of it in matter of like, you know, is it based off the
we're
pot?
oversimplifying things here. But.
Oh, for sure. It makes it harder. Plus, it's always hard when I don't have like a visual aid. I mean, is this an audio medium? So it's going to be a little difficult to do, but I like that. I like the idea of kind of having an idea of what you want to bet based on what's in the pot. And I do have a tendency to bloat the pot, which either causes me to lose big hands and I get more aggravated by. I guess, when I brought it up earlier, it's like, well, you got to be prepared to lose some of those pots because you're not betting enough to get players out, but then you're also not getting paid off on those kind of ace-jack type hands. You know, as long as you're winning more than losing, that's a good thing. I like it.
I think I also kind of want to highlight. I kind of want to highlight something as well, is when we're playing this the exact same way when we don't have ace-jack here, but we have, you know, something else that didn't hit.
King,
you
queen.
Know what I'm saying? King, queen, right.
Ace 10.
Yeah.
Queen 10.
This whole range of hands that we're opening in the middle of a tournament from middle position, that whole range of hands, we're kind of playing them all the same in terms of what our bet sizing is going to be when we choose to wager.
Right.
So I think, but we do need to be aware of our stack and how much we're putting in on our stack on the flop, because there is 2 more potential wagers.
True.
So that's something that's why you don't just want to bang 75% of the flop, and then the turn comes and bang 75% of the turn. Then the heart comes on the river, and you got 2/3 of your whole stack in there, and the heart comes, and now they jam on you, and it's like
what am I going to do?
Well, what am I going to do? It's like, well, you should have sized it better,
right?
And didn't put in all those chips on the first 2 streets, and now you're kind of left hanging. And it goes vice versa when you're running a bluff. You don't just want to pound the flop, pound the turn, and leave yourself with pennies to jam on the river. It's like, well, they're already made it to the river. They're probably not going to fold for your last 20,000 when they put 50,000 in there.
You didn't leave yourself enough creativity, enough play to make them think. You didn't give them a chance to fold. Like if it's only another, 25, it doesn't matter. I mean, if it's not enough to entice them to fold, then it's like, well, then again, you should have
like if they weren't scared. Sizes. Right. If they weren't scared of the 2 cannons that fired off on the flop and the turn, they're not going to be scared of a little pea shooter on the river.
Pea shooter, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, so you really do need to like carefully construct. Well, what am I going to do here on the turn and the river? And that's kind of got to be how you construct your bet sizing, especially with your bluffs. I mean, you want to be bluffing a pot-sized bet on the river.
Yeah.
You don't want to be bluffing 1/3 of the pot. So yeah. So I think moving on to the turn, let's move right into the turn, because we're going to keep going with our ace jack. So now we got ace jack on ace-8 3. We see bet 200 into 900. Both guys call. All right.
No shit. Or yay. I don't know which one it is.
Exactly. We're not out shitting. We're going yay. All right, so now we got 900 in there plus the 600, right? 200 and 2 calls.
I'm excited to hear what the turn is. What's the turn?
1,500. The turn is the offsuit 9.
Okay.
No flush draws. Ace-8 3, turn 9. They go check, check. Back to you, Ken. 1,500 in there. How much are you betting now? Now that you size down on the flop and you bet your little 1/6 pot or 1/5 pot, or
it's ace-8 9 3, ace-8 3 9
3 9. They go check, check. Back to you. No flush draws, no nothing. What are you betting now?
How much is in the pot?
1,500.
Yeah, I'm going 2/3 pot. 1,000.
Bang.
I hit it.
That's the nuts.
Woo! Sign me up for Brando's masterclass because
I'm literally on the computer saying bet at least 66% of the pot on the turn when firing a second continuation bet.
2/3. Yes, I love the 2/3 bet.
So now we're into where Kenny's comfortable. 2/3 is probably your standard bet, I would assume.
Yeah. I like a good 2/3 bet.
1/2 to 2/3.
I feel more comfortable in later streets. I'm not as comfortable on the flop. It's just the flop size bets that always get me off because I feel like in the turn, obviously so much changes because now you don't have the hopeful of there's 2 cards left that I can hit my hand or make a hand. I only have 1 chance left. So it's like that finality of you're down to 1 card. It's like, am I going to call this in hopes of the river? And then it's like, well, even if I hit my hand, am I going to get paid off on it? Which is always something I'm thinking when I'm on the other side of the, the passenger side of this. Gets a little bit tougher. But go ahead. So I nailed it. 2/3 pot. That's in position. I'm very happy with that play. I feel good. I feel good about my play right now. I'm gonna play a tournament this weekend.
So reading straight from the internet. You want your betting range to be comprised of hands that will be able to value bet on the river very often and hands that have a decent chance to improve to the best hand on the river. Well, obviously on ace 8 3 9, there isn't going to be many hands that have a decent chance to improve on the river because this is kind of a lockdown board. I mean, an ace is kind of the strength here. Mm-hmm. But so we want to be betting again for value and then be able to have the pot be a nice number where we bet 1,000 and then let's say one of the guys bows out and one of the guys calls. Now we're heading to the river, 3,500 in the pot. We got top pair, jack, kicker. And I mean, we're kind of loving life. We're going heads up. There's no draws. There's nothing. I mean, maybe this is one of those things. Maybe you invite something like Jack 10 suited with a backdoor flush draw to just call 200 on ace 8 3, hoping to bang a pivot card of a 9. And they do. So now we're betting 1,000 to charge them for all such hands.
I like that.
Mean, again, if we run into the single combination of ace 9 where they bang a 3-outer, we just lose. If we run into the 9-8 suited, okay, that's one hand that they can have that now beats you. It's like it is what it is. You're just willing to risk that flop bet to now get action from some more hands on the turn, and then or just take it down. And you got a street of value from 2 guys, and you take down a small pot, and you didn't have to risk that much. And when you were bluffing with king queen, you do the exact same thing, and they finally give you credit for an ace, and they fold and. You're nickel and diamond through the tournament. And this is what Daniel Negreanu, he plays small ball, You don't ever want to just play huge pots here with ace-jack in the middle of a tournament. You want to play small pots.
Again, let's say you're playing ace-jack against ace-10. What are the odds in those, 70-30 or 80-20?
70-30.
Pre-flop. It amazes me. It's like somebody says, do you want to play Russian roulette for 70-30? I'll give you 70% chance to win. Like, most people go, fuck no, that's crazy. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing when you think about your tournament life as an actual life where you don't get to redo it. Yes, 70-30 is an awesome advantage, but you still lose 30% of the time. That's like 1.5 times out of 5.
That's good math.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I mean, 2 out of 10, but same 3 out of 10. Same shit. But it sounds like 1.5 out of 5 sounds so much better. It's almost 2 out of 5 times you lose. Not quite that bad, but pretty close. It's nuts. What else you got us? All right, so I like that one.
So now we're going to the river. Say there's 10,000 chips in the pot. Don't know how we got there. Don't know what we got. People like this over jam river, this 2x pot, this huge polarizing wager on the river. Mm-hmm. When are you supposed to do it? When are you not supposed to do it? 10,000 in there. You check to me. I just say 25,000, Kenny.
Oh, like a massive overbet?
Yeah, like a 2x pot size overbet.
Holy
double pot.
Shit.
And you can't really bet more than pot.
And and I'm stuck with my baby ace jack?
Nah, don't worry about what hands we got. I'm just saying when should I, Brandon, be doing that? And when should I not be doing that?
Oh, I have you have me, but that's not even in your playbook. Not even in my wheelhouse. That's not something I've ever thought of. I have never once in my entire life grossly bet the pot like that in any way, shape, or form. And anybody who does it to me, I'm just like, you're an idiot. I'm going to get all those chips eventually. At that point, I'm hoping somebody else doesn't get his chips before I do.
Okay, Steve, but this is now a real life play in 2024.
Jesus.
That pros are doing.
Damn Gen Zs.
So there's basically damn Gen Zs. I know the Gen.
He's blew right over it.
I mean,
Me as a boomer, I don't know how to overbet 2.5x the whole pot. That's crazy. Go ahead. Why do I do that? Why do they do that?
3 times that we should be doing it.
3 times.
1 with Stone Cold Nuts.
Okay.
Obviously.
I like that play.
2.
I don't do it. It's not in my repertoire, but I might add it. Go ahead. 2.
You do need to be adding it when you have
the nut advantage.
Make a flush and you just feel that they have a flush as well.
Yeah, like a queen or king high.
When you feel like you got them coolered or the hand's just playing out like you set over set them.
Massively overbet the pot. Like, I dare you to call me.
2.
Okay.
When you're bluffing but blocking the nuts.
So I have the ace of spades. There's 3 spades out there, and I'm going to overbet block my big giant and hope that the king high flush, queen high flush, 10 high flush, 8 high flush, they get out.
Well, it's a good play even if the king or the queen is thinking about it. I mean, what about when they don't have it?
Mm-hmm.
So
they're definitely not calling.
Correct. If you can get the second or third nuts to fold, it's a great
pretty
play.
Damn good. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Third time.
This also is another bluffing spot. Is when they have a capped range. When as played, they only have a pair. They don't have the draws. They like in the ace 8 threes, when they call the flop and call the turn. I mean, sure, sometimes they can be laying in the weeds with a set of threes.
Okay.
But their range is pretty capped to having a pair. So when they can only have a pair and they can't have the 2 pairs and they can't have the draws that got there.
Right.
That's the time you want to be bombing the river because you're going to put them to the test with what you know is a pair. Sure, that pair can be better than yours. Maybe it's ace king.
In order for you to lose the hand, they need to make a bad play.
They need to make a bad play. That's correct.
And then you shouldn't be mad about
analytics.
It. Yeah.
Oh, so I think that, people are not overvaluing. They are overbetting 2 and 3x pots. However, I think it's pretty much always with the nuts because they want to put it into their game, but they don't have the stones or know when to do it the nuts.
Yeah.
Because I find myself personally, when I'm overbet bombing, I pretty much got it because I know it's a cool and correct play sometimes.
I'm going to do that next time I river the nuts.
I'm
I'm just going to jammy jam, big giant fat bet.
Just put them to the test.
Yeah.
People think you're bluffing.
Or it makes them start to think of it. It's like if you do that tricky, like I'll just bet the pot 2,500 or 5, whatever the hell it was, 10,000. Yeah, I understand now. It's like, well, why would they do that with the nuts? It's like you're never going to get a call. It's like they start doing the double thinking of like, well, why would you do that with the nuts when I would have called for 5,000, like a half pot, I would have called, but you just went 3x the pot. It's like I priced myself. I don't even care if you're bluffing. Ooh, I do like that play.
And it makes for
damn,
a very
those Gem Zs
dynamic.
are good.
I know, and it's the damn computers, and they're all studying and
computers. I've never looked at a range chart my whole life.
Just spitting out 8% of the time, you should be 2.5 potting the river. And it's like,
damn.
All right, cool. Let me mix that in there.
8% of the time?
I'm just making up numbers,
okay.
but I'm just saying, like
4% of the time.
They're spitting out these exact numbers,
Dude.
and you have to figure out
so gross
when you're gonna fit that into your game.
I've never done it in 40 years of poker. I should probably start doing it more often.
And you should be doing it with some bluffs. Figure out a spot where you're like, man,
Brandon, I promise you, first time I do this, I'm not going to have the nuts. I'm just going to
Yes, you're definitely going to just be bluffing.
I'm totally going to get called, and I don't care.
Where the hands played out, and you're just like, God, I'm beat here. And he's like, you know what? But this guy's probably only got a pair of aces.
Right.
Bam.
Can't beat 2 pairs. Can't beat the flush draw that got there. There's a little, the board's awfully wet, Oof.
Right. And tournament chips are valuable. People don't want to lose all those chips with a stupid pair and then go back to their backer and be like, well, I had ace king and I flopped an ace. And then, he puked all over himself and bet 3 times the pot on the river. I just had to call him off. And then he showed me a flush.
I had to do it. I had to do it.
Obviously, he's got a flush.
I had to do it. That's good.
So we hit some pre-flops, we hit some post-flop C-bets, we hit the turn C-bet percentage on the nose at 66%. We hit some river oversize. I mean,
I think
kinda hit a lot.
I think we could probably do a bet sizing part 2. I think there's so much to talk about with this type of idea because we didn't even. I mean, we talked about downsizing because we talked about why, but we didn't. I mean, I've never thought of it like downsizing. I just kind of gauged the pot. Yeah, and I get it. I think of like downsizing. I think of it more as like pot control. Like I want to control the size of the pot so that the later bets are affected by it.
100%.
But like I only think of that in terms of I don't correlate that as much with no limit Holdem as I do with pot limit Omaha, right? Like if I've got a hand like that ace jack that you're talking about where I'm not going to improve a ton or I got to really turn a better draw or, whatever the case may be, I will make a bet because I don't want to check back and just give him a free turn. But yet like I think about those things, whereas I don't feel like I do that as much in no limit. So it'll definitely be something to think about because I love the idea of not wanting to bloat the pot. I think that's a key kind of thinking point. At least it's a flaw in my game that I know of that I end up bloating the pot so much that I get people that want to get in or, I'm really not giving them like, well, he could have any. I'm like, he's got one of 3 hands and that's it. And my play gets much. And then I'm playing just the cards, right? Where if I'm fading.
Yeah, you turn into just playing the cards.
I'm just playing the cards. So if I run good, I have great sessions. If I run bad, I have bad, I'm just screwed. Or in my mind, I think I run bad, but I kind of entice these people to call all the way down with my diamonds, and they got diamonds, and I'm too stupid to fold. So I'm like, fuck it, I call. And they just 3x the pot in the river.
Yeah,
like,
you get yourself wrapped into the bloated pots, which
right.
you don't want to do.
And I think this is a nice way of giving yourself an out of, well, it was a budget. It was an Aldi trip of grocery shopping. I'm not going to Whole Foods. I always go to Whole Foods, but that shit's wildly expensive. It's like, that got out of hand fast. Inflation's even worse.
There's so much material online that goes way more in depth than we're ever even talking about right now. Situationally, hand range, depending on how many big blinds you have.
Correct. There's so many different factors. Yeah.
But there's just
it's a good basis though to think about it.
You guys can study this stuff for literal months if you want to. You can go down a bet sizing rabbit hole and you would never even think to realize that there's that much that goes into it.
Yeah.
Kenny's just looking at his hand. He's betting 60% flop, 66% turn, half pot river, trying to get 3 streets of value. Doesn't know why. Doesn't know what he could have done differently to get an extra 6 big blinds or save 6 big blinds.
It's really key that you say that because you're right. It's probably the difference. Most of us, I would say, have, if you're a good poker player, and I like to think the listeners are, right? Like you have good intuition and you gave it to me. I didn't have any idea what the ranges say or what they are. I'm just like, yeah, I think like 2/3 feels right here. And it was, right? Oh, you're close. You're a little bit under. But what you just said there is where you could save yourself 6 big blinds over the course of a tournament. Imagine if you could get 6 big blinds more out of a tournament, every tournament you played in, because you did these specific types of, game theory.
Where you would be down to 10 big blinds, but
now I'm at 16. There's a huge difference. I mean, I don't. Sure. It's stupid to say, but
massive difference.
It's stupid to think about, but when you think about it, in the way like, well, if you didn't make these little teeny tiny mistakes that added up to 6 big blinds less than. And then when you have good runs and you have good tournaments, those don't matter because you won the hands and you end up winning more, and it doesn't matter you win, But we're talking about like the regular tournament. That's super interesting to me to think about it in that terms of you could save yourself 6 big blinds over the course of a tournament. Imagine if you're playing
and then you double up, and you got 32 as opposed to 20.
Oh shit! I don't even think about double ups. You're right. My 10 turns into 20, which is still a short stack. 16 to 32. Wow.
You're fine.
And then you rip another big pot later where you're allowed to do so because the stack to pot ratio is not forcing me to go all in. I can get a fold out of it, not even have to show down my hand. Now my 32 turns into 40 something. Well, man, it's exponentially. Whew.
And it's all because you decided to bet 2,000 with ace king on an ace high board,
right?
As opposed to 5,500.
Correct.
Because the guy had a set. The guy had a set and you got coolered.
Right.
But like your bet sizing The same thing would have happened on that 2000 as it happened on 5500. You just leaked that 3500 away. And you don't even notice it because you got coolered or you lost a hand or, oh, what could I have done differently? Well, people always say, what can I do? What could I have done? Like in terms of like the hands resulting and the equities playing out of you having 0 equity and the guy having 100 equity. Sure, there's nothing you could have done differently for the card run out, but like your stack size after the hand could be different.
Could be different.
Oh, the guy went runner hearts on me. I lost 80% of my stack. Okay, cool. But what if we size things differently and the guy went runner hearts and I only lost 40% of my stack?
Correct.
Sure, it's still 0 to 100 and I still lost the pot and I'm still tilted. However, my chip stack is 19 bigs instead of 13. And here we go.
Wow.
It's kind of all I got.
Yeah, it almost, no. I think that's wildly, to me, I've never thought of it in that way, and
right, it's like those little micro mistakes.
Yeah, and everybody knows I'm not a super like analytical type of poker player. I like to feel around, and some days I feel like I'm feeling it. I feel great, and other days I feel like a blind man walking in the expressway. I'm just waiting to get whacked by a car. You know,
you're probably gonna get whacked.
I mean, that's the truth, and it's a horrible analogy, but it's the truth. Like you're just waiting to get knocked out of the tournament, and that's what's going to happen, and I feel bad about that. But I like this. I like the idea of thinking about your bet sizes in this way to save yourself 6 big blinds over the course of a tournament, which inevitably could be the difference between cashing in a tournament and busting the tournament, and that seems like a no-brainer. Well, this is one of our longer episodes. If you have any questions or thoughts or want to hit us up, Twitter's the best way to do so, at the Overlay Pod. You can go to our link tree, which is in all of the show notes, if you know what those are. If you're listening to this on your computer, go to ccgpoker.com/theoverlaypod. All the information's on there as well. You can just do a regular old Google search. Google The Overlay, a poker podcast, and we're the first ones that show up, which is great. Yeah, hit us up on Twitter if you got some ideas on bet sizing. If you always have show ideas, we will take those as well, and we are much more likely to give away some free stuff, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, deep stack seats at CCG that we've got to give away. We actually just got an email from, I didn't even tell Brandon this yet, sorry, I'm trying to look up my email at the same time, but from sponsorship opportunity from America's Card Room Poker Tournament. So yeah, that's a thing that might be coming up soon. So who knows what kind of cool shit we have to give away. Hit us up on Twitter at the Overlay Pod. Make sure you hit us a follow, like us, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Say hello to us at the next event that you see us at. And Brando, we're going to be gearing up for the WSOP circuit event coming up soon at the Hammond, right?
When is that?
It's got to be soon. It's normally like late Feb, early March. I think it's early March this year.
Oh, yeah, because that's the one you won right before COVID.
Correct. Yep. So I'd like to get that going back again. So, yeah, see us at the WSOP soon or at a CCG event coming near you. Brando, lead us out of here.
We'll do a part 2, guys. And
yeah, for sure.
Come up with some specific examples and some charts. And
like how to play against Greek John in a cash game. Or Dan the Ghost.
That'd be a nice lesson for you.
It's too good. All right, we'll see everybody next time.
Farewell, everyone.
Bye.